Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is for you, wherever you are in this great big world. Hope no one's behind me here in the dark. Yikes. My name is Michael John, and I am Michael John of Michael John Paranormal Ghost Stories, along with my co-ghost host, the man of the hour, the man with the power. He's much too sweet to be sour, folks. His name is Dale Quigley of High Spirits Paranormal. Together, we are the voice of the paranormal, the voice for the paranormal. We are Windsor, Ontario's own, the paranormal voice. And tonight we got a heck of a show for you. This guy's got a list of what he's done, where he's been, everything he's accomplished. I mean, if I go through the entire list, I'm going to keep the short version, because if I go through the entire list, I'm going to need a shave by the time I'm done, folks. So what we're going to do, I think, Dale, we're going to talk a little bit quickly about him before we actually release the crack.
Before we bring out our amazing guest, though, hey, Michael John, we got some really big things coming up. Like April 1st, we're kicking it all off. We're going to be heading down to Toledo, Ohio, being at the Midwest Parafest. Can't wait to get down there. Chad and Heather Dye. We look forward to seeing all those guys. We look forward to seeing our good friend Jeff Belanger, Andrea Perrin. Amazing lineup. That's just to kick it off, and that's April 1st. So anybody who's looking to look for something to do, April 1st, come on down. Midwest Parafest, Toledo, Ohio. Go over to MidwestParafest.com. Get your tickets today before they sell out. This is one thing you don't want to miss. So right now, you ready to bring them out?
Real quick, we already got a guest on watching us. Got to say hello to the lovely Deb Johnson DeRoos. Mwah, we love you. Hello, you awesome pair of dudes. Hello, you awesome pair of lady. Hello, we love you. That is Deb Johnson DeRoos, co-founder, along with RJ DeRoos of the UFO Contact Convention in Houghton Lake, Michigan. If you haven't been there, folks, get your butt out there. 5th annual coming up this year, but that's a whole other topic for another time. Deb, great to see you. Yes, let's get this gentleman ready. I mean, we got a list of what hasn't this guy done? Like I said, I'll need a shave if I go through it all. Let me look here. I'm just trying to find little tidbits here. First off, I mean, this guy's been to more than a few historic locations. The Conjuring House, Mansfield Reformatory, the Shanley Hotel, Rolling Hills Asylum, USS Little Rock, the Hinsdale House, the Jenny Wade House, the Soldiers Orphanage in Gettysburg, PA. That's just a couple things. This guy, he's had an interest in the paranormal since he was a kid, 8th grade. He had an episode where he slept overnight at a house of a friend before going to sleep. His friend, this is really interesting. His friend warned him about the possibility of hearing footsteps, the sounds of breaking dishes, etc. And it was during that night. Doesn't Frank hear both? Oh my God. Wow. 8th grade. How old would you be? Like 11 or 12, maybe? Jesus. So in the morning, he walked into the kitchen only to find a cabinet door open, which was full of dishes. So, wow. So Frank, on the crazy part about Frank, I mean, there's lots of crazy things about him, but what a gentleman. We had a chance to chat with him before we went on the air. What a professional, along with being a gentleman. But this guy he's a former prison guard turned paranormal investigator. His name is Frank Kupka. Welcome aboard, Frank.
Hi guys, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. How you been?
Fantastic.
Welcome aboard, Frank. Welcome to TPV Nation. We're glad to have you here.
Glad to be on.
So I mean, we've been waiting for this one to actually talk to somebody who's actually worked in a correction facility in an active prison. I mean, that's got to. We'll get talking about that just a little bit later on. But before that, you got a special event that's coming up with a good friend of ours. We'll get you talking about that. Oh, I'm just trying to pop it up on the screen there. Well, where to go? Oh, there we go. And before you talk about that, Frank, we got another special surprise for you.
Uh-oh.
Here he is, the man.
Uh-oh.
This guy, you never know when this guy's going to pop up for us.
You brought the legend in. That's the legend
one and
right
only
there.
Tim
There's
Shaw.
the legend.
Man.
That's the
Man.
legend right there. Right there. Right there. He's
Thanks for
not
being
only,
with us, Tim.
listen, this guy is not
He
he's
is
not
my
only a
mentor
good parent.
extraordinaire.
Oh my God. Get off the high horse there. Just go and make a pizza. Will you?
I'll make it. Listen, I'll make quite a few anytime you want them.
Listen, last night we were up at Paranormal Oddities and we were working with an experiment with ITC and turning voice vibration into frequency and going and using copper wire and hooking it up into into the spirit box. So we're all around. It's like a modern seance. So we're all going to be we're all got our game faces on. We're all set to go. This dude walks in. He's got this pizza that he made that was out of this world. Walks in with some kind of pepper bread that was like insanely good. And you know what? We ended up, all we did was eat. We ate. This was like, all of a sudden we got together at 7:00. Next thing I knew, it was 11:00. Next thing I knew, it was 2 a.m. And
Yeah.
I think we ate through most of it.
We had a good time. People learned a lot that last night.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you're right
It was
about
a good
that.
night. It was a good night.
Yeah, and that's what we were saying. Before we got
The one amazing thing is our great Michael John here is a really pizza aficionado. So next time you guys have pizza, you're gonna have to bring him down there too, because he nothing better than ghost stories and pizza. I mean, it's got to go.
Mike, I've got 3 pizza ovens. I got one in my basement. I got a portable one, and at Paranormal Odyssey, we got a portable pizza oven. I make pizzas like it's going out of style.
Hold on a minute. I told Tim, I believe it was yesterday, that I have a paranormal bromance with him. But you know what, Tim? I'm going to recant that. Yeah, I'm moving up to Frank now. You're right now, brother.
Hey, no.
Hey,
let me just tell you something. Up at Paranormal Oddities, they have an event. It's called Paranormal Cooking, and he broadcasts it out, and he brings different people that are involved with the paranormal locally, and we all cook. So we have a massive challenge that's coming up. Frank and I have been challenged by Stacy and Jolene, who are within the craft circles, and it's going to be a massive cook-off. And we bring in a live studio audience, and and whoever shows up gets to eat with us. So that's the best part. And no matter what Frank makes, the pizza oven comes out. That's the hors d'oeuvres. I'm just warning you. That's the way it works. That's just the hors d'oeuvres.
It will.
Oh my goodness. Oh, I mean, I now I'm gonna have to just leave the show so I can just go eat now. I'm starving. I'm all of a sudden craving pizza. So, gentlemen, we see that you have this fantastic event. Tell us about it. How do we come around? Tell our fans how they can get tickets to see both of you guys in person, which is truly amazing in itself.
Go ahead, Frank.
Well, about two years ago, we were sitting around and we're talking, and we were doing different things, and he keeps pushing me and telling me, you need to get out there. You need to get out there. You need to find something to do something. I'm like, I'm trying to think.
Because you're a lunker. Admit it. You're a lunker. You're a lunker.
So one day he says, we're at Paranormal Oddities, and he says to me, he goes, I got the perfect idea for you. He goes, you can do a talk on prisons and the hauntings. He goes, who better to do it than an ex-prison guard? And I'm like, right, that's fantastic. Now, from that point forward, I'm a procrastinator. I take my time and I do, but I'm a procrastinator, but I also needle and poke the dog. I've been poking him when we doing our talk. So about a month or so ago, month and a half.
Yep.
Said, when am I going to do this talk? You keep talking, and all of a sudden the next day, bang! This thing pops up on our chat thing and on our whatchamacallit. And I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. And I'm like, and then from that point forward, I'm like, well, it's time to buckle down, finish up my research, polish up my talk, and get my thing together, because it's on. I just did it and it's on. So that's how this came about. So my portion is going to be obviously some of my experiences within correctional facilities and things like that, and different types of stuff. Some of the stuff we'll talk about tonight, that kind of stuff, and I'll let Tim elaborate on to what he's going to talk, what part of his talk is going to be.
My part will be, and this is a twofer. We decided that we would do this sort of a little a 2-step program. Instead of a 12-step, we're going to have a 2-step. And so, I thought, what perfect format this would be to highlight one of the crimes, and be honest with you, crime of the century. And that's the way it was billed in the 1930s. And it happened here in Buffalo, New York. And it involves a world famous sculptor. It involves Native American witchcraft. It involves the use of a Ouija board. It involves a murder. And it involves a lot of scandalous, let's say, affairs. And it all rolls into one unbelievable. Well, it's actually they tried these people twice, but it's an amazing story. And I've been working on this for about a year because of the fact that my next book will be stories that I tell my friends. And I love to share a lot of the stuff from Western New York. You guys know, you guys sat next to me. I bored the hell out of you up at Old Mill with my stories.
You are a learning tree, not at all.
Absolutely not. We were soaking in that whole day, Tim.
But I wanted to go, and I just wanted to go, and I just thought this is perfect because this will be Frank's first attempt to be speaking in public in this type of a format. And it's going to be great because this way, people can come in and enjoy it. And you'll be able to, you can buy tickets online through Paranormal Oddities, or you can come up, and if you're in the Depew, New York, Buffalo, New York area, Erie County area, you can buy them right at the door. And it's just going to be fun. And that's what the whole idea behind what we're doing is just have fun with it rather than, let's face it, how many people are out there that make professions out of this? We're too old codgers now. We're both retirees. And, right. It's like, what we want to do, what professionally? Well, that ain't happening. I'll tell you that right now. That ain't happening. But this way we can actually go and we can share the knowledge, and we can share some really interesting stuff. And I had the opportunity to, I've worked with Frank and you guys will be picking his mind later on in the Western Block in Lockport, New York, which is a phenomenal, unbelievable site. But also he and I went down to West Virginia Penitentiary with some friends, and we had so many unbelievable experiences together. And coming from someone who was a prison guard at Sing Sing, who really did some really nasty, had to face and do all this nasty stuff. And we're talking about, we won't go into the bathhouse scenarios because we went into detail last night, and we don't want to do that again. But some of the stuff that he saw and experienced in these places really lent itself to the experiences that we had at West Virginia State Pen. So it's really, I couldn't think of a better person to be going out there and speaking with it. And he's right. I'll just tell you guys right now, never go and bother me about doing anything with me, because one day I just sit down and say, okay, I'll take care of you, Lunker. And boom, the banner I made the banner, I put it up, I got a hold of Paranormal Oddities, I booked the night, and I said, this is what we're doing. And poor Frank was shell shocked. For a couple of days, he was like shaking, he didn't know what the hell hit him. But now it's like, now it's it's on the books, it's on the date, and we're ready to rock and roll with it.
We're ready to go.
Absolutely. So there you go, folks. Once again, February 24th, 7 p.m. at Paranormal Oddities in Dewey, Deepu, New York. Deep.
That
I think I better go back to drinking again.
yeah, it's we call it South Central DPU.
New York. Go online, get your tickets, hang out with these two gentlemen. It will definitely be a night that you will never forget. To even be in the same room as Mr. Shaw, it's worth a mission in itself. Because
wait a minute. Where's my? I left my wallet upstairs. I'll send you my. I'll just send you my credit card number, and you decide what number you want to take off of it. How's that?
So once again, come on down, join these two gentlemen. Hear a full night. I mean, haunted prison stories. You cannot go wrong. I mean, those are things that we're going to be talking about just in a few minutes with Mr. Frank here, just to get all the backstory on what actually goes on in a haunted prison, because he was obviously there, right there as it was happening. So in the meantime, so $25, you really can't do much anywhere for $25 anymore. So that's one heck of a price to begin with. A night of great stories, entertainment, and like I said, to hang out with Mr. Shaw and Frank, you'll be in for a delight in itself. So
you'll be in for a real treat with this guy. Let me tell you.
And
I'm putting it out there.
Future. There might be a pizza in the future.
Oh, right. See, Michael John's already on his way. He'll be at the door when you guys get there.
I'll let you in.
Perfect.
Here's the thing, and let me tell you something. You'll love this. We go, and just quickly, a real quick story with this guy. So we go and we're investigating a little place in Wayne County, New York, and it's a former county jail. I call it a 24 seater. There's 12 cells in there, cell blocks, and there's and it's a great little place. Really loved it. So we're all jumping into a van. We're all flying up there together. First off, we stop at a place that has a robot server, and the robot is bringing out our food. That was the first sign that we were going to have a good time.
Yep.
But all of a sudden, we're driving. I'm going, what's that smell? And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. We've all, there's women in the van with us. So I know that, one of us did not take a bath in olive oil, and he made this pizza, this white pizza and it was just amazing. It was amazing. And it was like, we could just stop, and just stop investigating, run back, grab a slice, run back out there again. And it was amazing. So this guy is like, he is like Chef Boyardee of prisons. That's what I'm going to tell you. He's one of those guys that can, like, he can make like cheesy potatoes out of like some old cheese and some potato chips and hot water and mix it all together. He's one of those guys that can do that stuff. He's like the MacGyver of the kitchen.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm not that good.
We got Joe on the side, says he's having a slice right now. Well, he pops up as Joe Para Oddity. So there we go. He's eating one of your pizzas right now, Frank.
Yep. He took a couple pieces left over from last night, and we were at his place last night. That's the Paranormal Oddities. That's who he owns. The Paranormal Oddities. That's where we were last night.
Oh, nice.
And just to put a plug in for him,
sure,
he's like a mad scientist. I'm just going to tell you that right now. The stuff that he comes up with, yep. And I sit there and go, how do you think of this stuff? I mean, I swear to God, I mean, he's got lightning. He's got like some of those little bolts that come out of his neck, and he just kind of hooks himself up at night, and he gets all these downloads from all over the place. I don't know how he does it. He's got a USB port someplace on his body, and I don't want to know where it is.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Frank?
Oh, it sounds like a very fun night. So once again, folks, get your tickets, go online, and join these two gentlemen for a very interesting night of what seems there's going to be lots of pizza and paranormal stories.
Absolutely.
Truth. Thank you guys for bringing me on, and listen, don't be kind to Frank just because this is the first time on a show. Don't be kind to him, because he takes that as he takes, he'll look
Boy,
at that and say,
stop it. Leave it. Stop it. Be
no,
nice.
just no, just hit him with the hard questions. Hit him with all the hard questions.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do my
He's
best. I'll do my best with every pitch that comes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, listen, he can flip a baton better than anybody else I know, and that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you so much, Tim, for popping on and
you so
promoting
much,
your
guys.
guys' event. It's always
guys are
great to see
great.
you, buddy. I look forward to getting a hug from you sometime this year.
Oh yeah, I got I'm going to be busy in the spring, and then I got something into June, and then I won't be booked until I'll probably see you guys way up in Sault Ste. Maria at the Michigan Paracon.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely. We're already there.
Awesome.
WrestleMania of
I'm trying to
Paracon.
get to that one myself. I'm working on getting to that one myself. So
Sweet.
So
Yes.
if you guys see some big lunker walking with a backpack, and he's walking past London, Ontario, and he's heading to the big blue bridge. He's got his thumb out. Pick him up. I feel sorry for him. Pick him up. That's a long walk. He'll be one. I'm sure that somebody will pick him up from the Peace Bridge and take him that far to London. But after London, he's on his own.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Tim. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to seeing you, my brother.
Take care. I love you guys so much.
Yeah,
Thank
love
you
you.
so
Love you.
much, guys.
Thank you.
Peace out. Oh, what an amazing gentleman he is. I tell you, it's always a pleasure to have him around. We've got a few new viewers showing up. Hi, Stacy. Thank you for joining us. And who else did we have? Oh, we have Tina Smith. Thank you for joining us. And Donnie Lampont. Thank you
Donnie.
for showing us. Always great time having people around. So,
Yeah, we
absolutely.
appreciate the support. Definitely.
very much so. So, now that we've got everybody frazzled with the Tim Shaw visit, let's try to wheel this back in a little bit. So Frank, how did you get started into the paranormal? Let's start off with the basic questions before we get into the deep stuff.
Sure. You there?
Yeah, we're there. Sorry. Yeah. So tell us a little bit. Tell us about your first paranormal experience.
Well, as we were talking about, backstage, it was in eighth grade, so I was about 13 or 14 years old, and we're spending the night at a friend's house. We would go ice skating at the park, and it was a Friday night, so we're spending the night, and we were kind of joking around. He's like, "Listen, if you hear dishes breaking and everything, just don't worry about it. It happens all the time." And I'm like, "Yeah, all right, dude, whatever. You know how that goes. Yeah, okay, whatever." So I get up late and I go to use the bathroom across the hall, and I hear what sounds like footsteps coming up the stairs. And I'm like, no way. So I dart into the room real quick. And he's like, what's going on? I go, they were just footsteps. He starts laughing. And then all of a sudden we're sitting there and it sounds like every dish in the place is being just smashed and broken. And I'm like,
Wow.
and he's like, it's like that all the time. He goes, there's nothing being broken. I'm like, I'm at this point, I'm like, I don't care if there is, I'm not going down there. I'm not going down there. So fine, it stops. We go to sleep. Get up in the morning, like I told you, and go downstairs. The cabinet's open. Not one dish is broken. Nothing's going on, and I'm just like, I was just floored. And from that point forward, it kind of like, I was like, well, that's pretty interesting. What would do something like that? And as I got older, I was playing sports and stuff, so I lost it. Not so much. I didn't so much lose interest, but it just never really kind of came to the forefront of what I was really pushing for. Then I get into corrections. I'm 22 years old. I get into corrections and I go to Sing Sing, and I'm at Sing Sing for 7, 8, 9 months. And, you walk into a jail and you're walking into a whole nother world, and being that young and that naive and that green, so to speak, it was just like everything just hits you. And and I saw things and heard things, and it's always like, it's always out of the corner of your eye, and you're like, nah, I didn't see that. You blow it off because it's not something that you always work with all the time.
Yeah.
But I decided one night, I decided one night that I had some free time at 9 o'clock or 9:30 when all the inmates locked in. So I went down. Sing Sing was Sing Sing had the death house for a very long time. They did.
Right.
I believe in the research. I think it was 641 different executions that were done at Sing Sing.
Wow.
Yeah, over the course of the years, I believe it was 641. I'd have to recheck, but I believe it's somewhere in that area. So, and they were all done through the electric chair. So, the death house at Sing Sing was turned into a vocational area, and they had a boxing ring and things like that. So at night, I'd go sit in. Everybody's locked in. Everything's all turned off. So there's nothing in there. There's no light in there except for the red lights from the exit signs. And you hear voices, you hear knocks, you hear things, you see the shadows bouncing back and forth. And it really starts to unnerve you. And again, being 22, 23 years old, I'm like, what? And then it was okay because nothing was really bothering me, but it's just that really unnerving type of feeling. But then all of a sudden it's like, now you start to smell things. And then when the smell got overwhelming, I knew it was time for me to go. I would sit there about 5 or 10 minutes, and then the smell would hit you. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's the smell of burning flesh from the electric chair. That's
Jesus.
Basically what you're smelling as it's coming in there. And when you singe your hair and you get that nasty smell, times that by 100, and it's just overwhelmingly nasty. So it was time for me to get out. So that was another thing. Then there were a couple other facilities I was at where, I would work the midnight shift, and you'd see a shadow here, or you hear a noise there, and the inmates are sleeping and they're all locked in, and you're the only one there because you just made rounds. There's nobody else around, and you hear a noise where you just came from, or you see this, or you hear that. So that stuff started to pique my interest. Why is it here? What's there? And it just kind of snowballed from there. And then once I retired, I got it. A friend of mine decided he wanted to do something, so he asked me to do it with him. And from that point forward, it just blew up. And that's where it led me into today so far.
So what I find interesting about you, Frank, on top of what you just shared with us, what an amazing story. I mean, so definitely, to say the least, that's a unique smell that you would never forget.
Oh, God, no.
Wow.
No. No.
So you credit, I'm gonna actually drop a couple book names, titles.
Okay.
Real Hauntings, Poltergeist, ESPNU. This is a massive influence on your paranormal work, and the name is Hans Holzer.
Absolutely. I've read a couple of his books. I really got fascinated with him because we have the same birthday. His birthday is the same as mine, January 26th. So he just had a birthday, just like when I did. So it really kind of drew me into that, and reading some of the stuff they did. I used to watch the Holzer Files. I'd see that every now and then. So that kind of really helped direct me into how I wanted to try to proceed and do things, that kind of thing.
Yeah, talk about an OG in the paranormal world. He's the
right.
man.
Yeah.
Thanks to him, we're all here. More
right. Exactly. It's cool stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely. Just a quick note, we got a few more. Just like to say hello to Miss Sarah Strickland that's watching us. We got Jenna watching, and Ricky. Thank you all for tuning in. And anybody's got a question for Frank, just type it in the chat box, and we'll make sure we ask it for Frank here. Because he actually sent me some pretty interesting photos here. I'm going to bring up the first photo, Frank, and maybe you can explain to us where this was,
sure,
and what's kind of going on here. I mean, they're very, very interesting. I was very intrigued. So this was the first one you sent to me.
Okay, so all these photos of the red, they were taking at as Tim had mentioned, the Western Block in Lockport, New York, where myself and Para Niagara, we work together as collaboration, and we do public ghost hunts. Okay. And a person, one of the guests on this ghost hunt was taking pictures down a hallway, and this mass had formed in front of this spot right here. So that was one of the very first ones we had caught, and it was taken by a guest. All these pictures that you show, or whichever ones you show,
Yeah.
we did not take them. They were taken from guests on our tours, and they were sent to us.
Incredible.
Okay. So this is that. Okay. So this was during. So then we've got this one here.
Yep.
This one here. This one's pretty amazing. That was like, it looks like they were standing like right in front of the camera when it was taken.
Right. And now, so where that last one was, this is that same doorway. It's basically all those pictures that I've sent you are all in the same 5x5 area. Whatever is there is all, it likes to hang out in that same kind of doorway, show itself, see things, that kind of. So it's right in that one area.
So what was it? What was this room used for as part of the history of this location?
It was a factory for a long time, so it must have been a manufacturing area. Right now it's an art gallery, and it's one of the galleries that she have. It's an arts and cultural center that she runs right now. So that's one of the gallery rooms where there's some prints of art and stuff like that they do gallery stuff in there.
I think we've got one more here. This one here is really, really fascinating because it's like you can almost see like a full body right there.
Right, and that night, the woman took the picture. There was 8 of us, and we were all standing back. So the red box up there is actually my spirit box. I built. We went to Joe's place at Paranormal Oddities. I took out a it's a 1929 Philco radio. Took all the guts out of it, replaced it with all the other stuff. Put a red background in there with some red LED lights because I like the red light. It's softer. It doesn't hurt your eyes. And it just seems that when we have that box and I have a REM pod with the little red light, that they were, this apparition or whatever it seems to be to be staring at the box, listening to it, trying to communicate with it almost.
Amazing.
That's what I get out of it.
I love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, those are 3 amazing photos. I mean, and they're all in the same room. So like you said, obviously whatever happened in that room, its energy likes to stay in that room to do. So we got a question from Joe Paroddity here. It says, Frank, what is one piece of equipment do you choose to use mostly?
Actually, there's 2. Mainly, I like to use my spirit box, and I love to use dowsing rods. I love dowsing rods. I use them all the time. I like that old school kind of feel. So those are really the 2 that I prefer to use the most.
Since no, I mean, I've never used dowsing rods. I mean, I've always watched people use them. I've always been pretty fascinated by them because I find they really pick up the energy of the room, what's going on. And I mean, if you look back to the history of what dowsing rods were used for initially, I mean, because let's face it, all the paranormal equipment that we use wasn't really built for paranormal use.
Oh,
they're used for other functions, but it just happens to work in our favor that these equipment that is out there. I mean, there is some nowadays. There's people out there actually designing stuff just for the paranormal, but everything like dowsing rods, K2 meters, EMF detectors, like that's all stuff that was made for a totally different purpose. I mentioned those people never even dreamt of that their equipment would have been used to be finding ghosts. I mean, you wonder if they would have even created if they thought that's what it was going to be used for. But
he taught me how to use the dowsing rods. I went and he actually put them in my hand and taught me how to use them. So
sorry, who did
that? Tim Shaw taught me how to do it. So Tim, so I thank him for that. And it has become one of my favorite pieces of equipment, along with my spirit boxes and things like that. And so those are my 2 favorite pieces.
So what I want to ask you, Frank, based on those photos right there that you shared with us, I mean, and your experiences in the prisons over the years, I mean, with things out of the corner of your eyes, as you described, the sounds, the voices, all that good stuff that we all love as paranormal investigators, the little nuggets there, if you will, we talked about. Out of all those, what in a fair percentage, if you were to look at that this way, pardon me, excuse me, would you say it's more residual or more intelligent hauntings in prisons?
It's tough, and it all depends on the area of the prison you're in and what went on. We just had this conversation the other day. I like to, the energy that's inside of a prison is basically encapsulated inside there. So you take all the energy that everybody, all these millions of people are having, walking around all over the place. So it's kind of like taking salt in your hand and blowing it out all over the place. Okay, so everyday energy is always all over like that. When you walk into a prison, or you walk into an asylum, or you walk into like the building at Western Block, all that energy is encapsulated inside, and it seems to stay there. And because it's there, it seems to increase and feed off of itself to increase the activities. Sometimes you get some good responses. Sometimes you get that, you get those apparitions. You'll hit the disembodied voices we discussed. And I believe it's all because all of that energy concentrates itself into one small area. You take a city like Detroit, and I'm just using numbers, that's 300,000 square miles, and take a prison like Sing Sing that's 14 acres. Yep. And you take all the same type of energy from those 300,000 miles and you stick it into that 14-acre area, you're going to get a lot of different types of activity, so to speak.
So the one question I've always wanted to know, or to get your thought on this, because obviously you were in it, working inside these prisons and everything. What is your theory? Like, after these people pass and everything, like, why do they not want to leave the prison now that their energy is basically free? But what do you think makes these people want to stay inside those walls for even longer? I mean, I'm sure enough of them been there their whole life, so why stay there any longer?
Well, I think it becomes just like anything else. It becomes like a comfort zone for them. I mean, we discussed it a little bit. Backstage. If you are who you are in life, you are who you are in death. So if you only know the prison life, why would you leave those walls and be uncomfortable when you can stay right where you're comfortable and live right there? And I think a lot of that happens. A lot of them become creatures of habit, just like in prison. They become institutionalized. So as a person, they're institutionalized to stay there. They really don't know any better as a spirit. And, when I talk with people, they ask me, well, what's the difference? You're talking to a dead person. Well, not yes and no. A spirit is just a person without a body. You and I are talking right now, and you have a body, so I can see you and talk to you. The only difference is and I tell a lot of people this all the time, I sit in the dark and talk to nobody and hope for a response. Yeah. And that's what you're doing. And that's what you do when you talk to the spirit. So as they get acclimated to their surroundings, I believe they become comfortable and they just want to stay right there. And it's not necessarily that they, love the prison, but it's just what they know. And as humans, they know that, and as spirits, they know that.
Right. No, that's and I mean, really, that's you're probably pretty close to nailing it on the head on. That's just what they're used to, and so they just don't want to leave the comfort. It's no different than somebody who builds a house and dies. They generally end up staying in that house because they love it. Like, a lot of places we've investigated, the homeowners or former homeowners love it, so they don't want to leave. And I guess prisoners probably feel the same way. Is like, this is their home and they just want to stay.
Exactly. And that's, walking through it really is funny, because when you walk through a prison, when I walk through a prison or asylum or any place like that, the energy is always there. But to me, because I worked in the environment, it's an everyday kind of energy. It's anxiety. It's, it's sadness. It's happy. It's joy. It's this. It's that. You get people that walk through, some mediums, some psychics. Oh my God, it's evil here and it's evil there and it's blah, 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 blah. No, some of these men are nasty, vicious, nasty men. They were nasty, vicious men then. They're nasty, vicious men and as spirits, as we discussed. Not doesn't mean they're demons, doesn't mean they're the devil. It just
Mm.
means that they're bad humans. And when you walk through, if you're not, I am acclimated to a lot of that stuff. So people look at me, oh, you're just arrogant about where you go. No, I'm not arrogant. I understand what the energy is. It's an everyday kind of energy. What you're feeling, and again, like I said, it's encapsulated. So you're feeling it. You're getting hit with a rush of energy that I've felt all those years that I'm just used to walking through.
Right. So
Frank,
we have a couple of, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
go ahead, Joe. Go, you're good. Go ahead. I can wait.
No, Joe said maybe to get revenge on the inmates who killed them. I mean, that would be an interesting theory.
Sometimes.
And then we have Rebecca joining us. Thank you, Rebecca, for joining in. She says sometimes they stay because of the guilt and they still feel like they deserve to be punished, which is another interesting a thought, and why they're staying behind when, the energy, like they said, you can cross over, go to the, however you believe, the big white light, or
the only if Rebecca, the only thing that I disagree with you is none of those guys feel they deserve to be punished. I can tell you that right off the bat. So as far as them staying there, none of them feel they deserved what they got. Out of 70 or 80,000 inmates that are in the system, I would say maybe 0.5% would say, yeah, you know what? I did it. None of them will take responsibility for what they've done. And none of them will actually feel they deserve to be there. It's my fault or your fault or the judge's fault that I'm here. It's nobody else's fault. It's not my fault. It's everybody else's fault. So that's the only part I would disagree with you on. They never believe that they deserve to be punished.
Couple more questions, questions on the site here. Miss Deb Johnson DeRoos, she's commenting, a-hole in life, a-hole in death, and that negative energy can be pretty nasty.
Absolutely.
Number one, that she's asking you, does that horrid smell still haunt you, Frank? The electric chair smell?
It depends on the facility I walk into. I smelled it when we went to West Virginia State Penitentiary because they have the electric chair there. They actually have their original electric chairs behind bars that you can actually see. It's on display. You can actually see it, the one they actually used. And when I had my hands on the bars, I could feel the flow coming through.
Amazing.
That smell came back. It wasn't overwhelming. It wasn't brutal, but I'm like, yeah, that's right there. I can see it. So it don't really haunt me, but if I go into a location where that chair was, I will get the residual effect of that. Yeah, I can still smell it. Yeah.
So you're a bit of you're a bit of a feeler then yourself, or you have some abilities then on top of
a little bit. I wouldn't consider myself a medium or anything like that, but I do read energy very well, and I do that kind of thing. I can assess a room and know what's going on. When we went to West Virginia State Penitentiary, as Tim was alluding to, we went down into what was called the Sugar Shack.
Yes.
And the Sugar Shack is basically just a recreation area where nobody went. There were no officers. I mean, the officers could look in and see, but it was basically dog eat dog, and you were on your own.
Oh, God.
So there were fights, there were stabbings, there were rapes, there were all kinds of things that went on in there.
Yeah.
So when we walked in, we heard a lot of like pushing and shoving, tables and chairs being pushed and shoved around. Okay. And it just couldn't place it at first. And we were just kind of, and as we're walking through, and we could hear voices, we could do this. We got some good stuff while we're there. It was a real heavy area to be in. Definitely a heavy area to be in. So when we went upstairs to take a break, we went back up into the lobby. We were asking, we said, so where we're standing now in the lobby, adjacent to where would the Sugar Shack be? And the woman said, down that way and a little bit to the left. So probably about 70 or 80 yards down the hallway. I'm like, all right, were you guys pushing any tables and chairs around or this, that, and the other thing? And she's like, no, we were actually over here. We weren't even in this room until you came up. I'm like, and then it dawned on me. I was like, I know exactly what happened. We had actually spiritually walked into a fight, because as I'm standing there replaying and listening to what was going on, I put myself back in the position where I know that sound, and I know why that sound is going on, because there was a fight. 2 guys, whether it's 2 guys, 10 guys, whatever, they got up, they were jumping, they were pushing and shoving chairs around, and that's exactly what it sounded like. So I said to them, I'm like, we probably walked into a middle of a fight, heard that fight, the pushing and shoving the chairs, and all the rest of the residual stuff we heard was the commotion from afterwards. And that's so it was pretty fascinating that way. And
for sure.
And like Tim said, that was a correlation that I was able to make because I was in the situation like that where I was, in the first person to hear tables and chairs being shoved that way.
Wow. So speaking of Tim, I cheated and I listened to, this was a year ago, February 2022, Black Cat Lounge interview. It was yourself and Lydia Manson. You were talking about the original Death House experiences.
Okay.
Blockyard and Sing Sing.
Yep, a Blockyard.
Okay. So what happened there?
I told you that earlier.
Oh, did you? Is that the one?
Yeah.
Is that, okay, wait a minute. Okay, then I've got my notes. I'm so sorry. So
no, yeah,
in medium prison for about 5 months. The Oneida Correctional Facility.
I worked at Oneida, correct.
Oneida story. You were reading a book to stay awake. You did what you had to do to stay awake. You commented on that. Right. 2 inmates came running past you.
Correct. They were so Oneida was a dormitory type setting. So they, in the back behind me, they had rooms in the dormitory. So there were 2 of them that it was Christmas Eve, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day because I was leaving the next morning. They come flying up from the back and they sit down next to me. And I'm like, I'm like, what is wrong with you 2? And they're like, we're not going back there. Something back there, push me, shove me, blah. I'm like, look, dude, you got to, I get off my podium. I'm like, and as I'm talking to them out of the corner of my eye, I can see, and I'm like, I go, the 2 of you need to go back over there. So they're like, we're not going back. And I'm like, yes, you are. You can't sit here. You got to go back. I go, I'll tell you what, this is what you do. You sit on one bed, you go to sleep. And then an hour later, you go to sleep and you watch him. So that way nothing happens. How's that? I was dumbfounded because I made rounds within a couple hours. One was sleeping, the other one was sitting there watching them. And then when I came back, they had flip-flop. The other one was sleeping, the other one was watching them. So whatever was back there was really kind of messing with them. Wow. And that's just another little story. It didn't come up front, didn't bother me. I knew it was back there because I had seen it out of the corner of my eye. But yeah, that's just another little, again, another little story that piques your interest and gets you to wonder why and what's going on. So
yeah, no kidding.
Oneida was actually a oh god, what was it? It was a mental institution. It was a mental hospital. So before it was a prison, it was a mental hospital. So really, it had, and in that area, those 2 areas were a lot. There was a lot of activity in that area and a different area because of because of where the people were being housed in that area of that stuff. So it was pretty fascinating.
Full moon. What is that true? When there's a full moon, does it amp up in the prisons?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Yep. It's everything that goes on the outside of a prison goes on the inside of a prison. And again, it seems to be much more amped up or much more focused because it's such a small concentration of people. You're looking at 1,200 people that are going goofy instead of 10,000 people that are going goofy that are spread out all over the place. Excuse me, all over the place. So yeah, it's amped up, and yeah, when it's a full moon, it's just like, yeah, here it comes. Freaks come out at night, we used to say.
You could. I bet you could feel that in the air too, right? The difference in the
absolutely
in the energy for sure. It would amp up. Chris Ciesla on the side here. He says, "Hey, Kupka, I hope I say his name right." And he says, "Oh my God, yes, full moon amps it all up." He's agreeing with you.
Yep.
Thank you, Chris, for your comments. Dale, you're on mute.
So Frank, you also sent us a video that I would be very interested in showing. I haven't even watched it yet because I wanted to see this for the first time with Michael John over here. So let's get this up here and we'll see.
So if you look to the far left, you can replay that again. If you look to the far left, this was caught on security camera again, it's at the Western Block.
Mm.
So can you replay?
Yeah.
There we go, right there.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. Oh,
Hell,
wow.
So the very first time we did public ghost tours at the Western Block, we had brought a group up and they were discussing and talking about EMF and the electricity and the EMF. They were showing them on the electric panel how the EMF detector will go off and that kind of thing if there's some electric around. So it'll tell you what's around. I happened to look through the door and I saw that shadow and I thought it was Heather, who was the woman that owns the building. I thought it was her coming back to meet us. The room is only about 15 feet wide or 15 feet long. So once that shadow got past past that area, I should have seen a body and I should have seen her walking towards me. When I didn't, I went into the room, took a look around. I didn't see anything. There's a little alcove up to the left, up to the right. I looked up there. She wasn't up there. And then when I come back, she was coming up the back stairs that we had just come up. And when I asked her if she had been in that room or been near that room, she said no. She just came up. She was locking up downstairs and came up here. So her and I talked a little bit. I told her exactly what I saw, and that's exactly what I saw. And I told her, check your security cameras later, see what happens. I mean, I don't know. 4 o'clock in the morning, she sends me that, and I think I woke the whole house up because I was like, that is fantastic. Because Mike, as you know, we all get that's a personal experience that's fabulous, but it's never the evidence there is not there.
Right.
It's my personal experience. I was able to see that. And when I told people, they're like, well, that's really cool. I'm like, you know what? It is really cool. But so when that video came out and it's only 4 seconds long, and the reason it's only 4 seconds long is because the security camera catches movement and it will record until it stops seeing the movement or stop.
Wow.
So it caught the movement and then it went for 4 seconds. And then when the movement was gone, when the video camera didn't feel any movement there, it stopped recording. So that's why it's only 4 seconds long.
So now let me ask this. I mean, as far as trying to debunk it, obviously, I mean, that's what we all do first. I mean, what did you look at first? I mean, there's a door in that video, right? Is that a door where that appears
There's
to come
a door there. So every group that we bring through, we've brought through about there's a door. We just passed that thing. So there's about 300 people that we've brought through since that's happened, if not more. We bring every group up into that classroom. And that's on the second floor. That's not on the first floor. It's on the second floor of the classroom. So what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of a demonstration. I'll walk past the windows because that light coming through is the light from the street lights. So I walk past the windows and you can see where my shadow is. And I tell them, there's my shadow coming in. But when I get to that spot, my shadow is still going this way where that shadow was going that way.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
So that shadow is facing the opposite way where my shadow goes this way. And then when I step through, my shadow disappears. If I step through to go to the doorway, which is like half a step, it's completely gone. Whereas that one just keeps kind of gliding along the wall that way. And I have people walk the wall. We have them do their own little experimentation and give us their, and they all just stand there like this.
right.
Pretty much like I did. I'm like, so we do everything we can to, and we had there was one girl who had come through and I don't want to use the word challenged us, but she was kind of skeptical of it. And she's a film editor and she was a film student, a film editor. So Heather gave her, now she had flipped out cameras, but she gave her the original camera with the original recording. She sent it to her so she could break it down, take a look at it to make sure that we weren't faking it. We weren't doing anything crazy. We've yet to hear from her. So I don't know if she didn't do it, if she, looked at it and said, yeah, screw that. I don't know what that is. I'm not touching it.
Right.
We don't know because we haven't heard back from her. But anybody that wants to see that video, you can contact me and I'll contact Heather. If you want to break it down, if you want to, whatever, she can get you the original video, see that nothing's been monkeyed with, and you can break it down yourself and you can have a video expert break it down and tell us, because we still have no idea. I know what I saw looking through the door, and I know what that camera caught. We'd be more than happy to send anybody that wants to try to tell us we're full of it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. You know what? And you know what? And that's the thing too. It's like so many people can sit there and say, "Well, anybody can fake anything," especially by today's technology. It is possible,
Yeah.
but I mean, when obviously if you get a raw footage of something, and what if you know anything about filmmaking or even how to edit a video, it's you can see that if there's no breaks in the video, then you know very well that
Right.
it's never been tampered with or had stuff thrown on top of images put on top of it. But that's a very compelling piece of evidence right there. I mean that'd be a class A video right there.
I mean,
Um,
I was
and
shocked.
for you to see it with your eye is even more amazing.
Yeah, that was the shocking part. And again, it's that personal experience, and I'm like, first thing I thought to myself was, this really sucks because I'm gonna be able to tell everybody about it, but they're gonna look at me like I'm in like, oh, all right,
Right.
dude, you're just seeing things. But when
Right.
that came out, I was like, oh, thank you. And it's and we've been doing this 3 years now,
Yeah.
yet to capture another one. So I mean, they're
Yeah.
very rare. It rarely, if ever, happens. And you know what? Right place, right time,
Oh, God.
stroke of luck, and that's all. And that's all it was. Nothing. I didn't do anything special. I just happened to be in the right place, at the right time. It was a stroke of luck to see it. That's all it was.
I
You
compare
know what?
paranormal investigating
Yeah.
to fishing. It's like fishing. One day you're sitting there 12 hours, you get jack shit. Other
Yep.
days you can't pull them in enough. You know,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
exactly it, right?
Yep.
And you
Yep.
get that gold like that video there, or some audio, or what have you. You know what I mean?
Right.
That, and then we talked about way earlier before, as you say, backstage. It's the adrenaline rush. One
Yeah.
time, you know, something happens to you,
Yeah.
and you're in it for life, man. And here we are. You know,
Exactly. And that's it. It's just like you're hooked. Gotcha.
yep.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, but it always seems too like sometimes some of the best stuff happens when you don't have a recorder going and you don't have a video camera going. Some of the best stuff happens. So you like you said, at first you thought all you had was the story to go with it,
Right.
but it's the paranormal gods answered you and says, "Oh, here's the video."
Oh, I was shocked and happy at the same time. It was fabulous. And that's you know what? If I never did another investigation, I got that. That's all that matters. It's kind of like winning the championship. You can't take that away from me.
That is so true.
This has
But
been
yeah, so
the hour that I've ever been on an interview with a guest. This has gone by. It's felt like 2 minutes, and we're
Yeah.
already up to the hour.
Wow, we're already up at an hour.
Oh my
Damn.
God! There's so much more we want to talk about here. Right,
Right.
Dale? I mean, how fast has this gone?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't even think we even scratched the surface of some of the experiences Frank has had in his time into the paranormal. So we would definitely love to have you come back again, Frank. Talk
Absolutely.
about some more of your experiences. I mean, I know I still have like a list of burning questions about
Awesome.
stuff you've probably seen in the prisons while your time there. Maybe even maybe you even got some stories some inmates have told you. So
Yeah.
I appreciate your time. We thank you so much for coming on.
Greatly appreciate you having me. I'd be more than happy to come back anytime you want. Absolutely.
There he is.
So this is how you get a hold of Frank. Yeah, you always see his Gmail there. He's on Facebook, Instagram, and of course Twitter. So Frank, just tell us real quick, or not even real quick. We could go over an hour. We're not on any time strains.
Sounds good.
Where can people see you? Tell us what your next adventure is going to be.
Starting February 18th, back at Western Block in Lockport, Buffalo Phantom Hunters and Paraniagara are starting our once a month public ghost tours. So we'll do once a month, February, March, April, and May.
Wow.
You can get tickets at paraniagara.com. Look at paraniagara.com or Paraniagara on Facebook. Check my Facebook page, Buffalo Phantom Hunters or Buffalo Phantom Paranormal. I share all that stuff out. It's all the information will always be there. In Wednesday, April 5th, myself, Tim Shaw, and another group of people, we're going to the Grand Midway Hotel in Widmer, Pennsylvania. So we're going to do a private investigation there. We're going to go live for a little bit. So I'm going to be live doing a little bit, maybe about a half hour, 40 minutes or so, just to give everybody a feel of what's going on. If you don't know anything about the Grand Midway Hotel, it has the world's largest Ouija board painted on the top of it.
Yes.
That's the one. Yep. That's the one. And I just found out too, I was looking at in the library, they also have the world's largest tarot card on the ceiling. So
Come on.
yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that one. I'm either going to try to put another group together to either go back to Conjuring House or maybe Crescent Seminary, that kind of Crescent Sanitarium, rather. I'm sorry. So we got some stuff going on, but I can be seen anywhere in DePue at Paranormal Oddities all the time. Like Tim said, we are going to be doing our talk there on February 24th.
Yes.
We are also going to be doing Tim and I will also be there. I believe it's March 24th for the giant cook-off between Tim and I and Jillian and Stacy. That's going to be live from Paranormal Oddities. That's going to be another great show. So that'll be a lot of fun. What else do we got coming on? I mentioned stuff at Western Block and that other stuff. But I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. I might try to sneak out April 1st if I can get to Toledo. It's not too far from Buffalo. It's only about 4 hours. I'm going to try to get that. If I got nothing going on, I'm going to try to slide out there and stop and see you guys in Toledo. That's pretty close.
Great to see you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great to see you.
And I'm actually going to continue working on trying to get up to the Michigan Paracon for sure. I have a habit of doing like mud obstacle course races, like Spartan Race, Tough Mudder, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that weekend is usually one of the local ones that I usually do, but I may forego that this year and go and take a ride up there with some people and meet you guys and meet some of the other people that I've talked to through Tim that I know through Facebook and that kind of stuff. It'd be great to finally put faces with names and things like that. So
for sure.
I'm working on that as well. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, like Michael John says, the Maya Paracon, we refer to the WrestleMania Paracons. It's such a great weekend, 3 days of fun, hanging out,
Right.
and just catching up with what we call our para family. It's a great atmosphere. So yeah, no, we look forward to meeting you anytime. Yeah, we would love to hang out, grab a couple beers, talk shop, see what's going on. Stuff we can't talk about on the air. But yeah, no, we thank you so much for coming on.
I greatly appreciate you bringing me on. I had a great time. Please, anytime, reach out anytime. I'd be more than happy if you get stuck. If I'm free, I'd be more than happy to come and sit back down with you again. Not a problem. Anytime.
Thank you to everybody on the Windsor, Ontario's own, the Voice for the Paranormal, Voice of the Paranormal Voices Facebook group page, our YouTube channel. You are the TPV Nation, and you are who makes us who we are. Without you, we wouldn't be on. Without great guests like Frank Kupka and the legendary Tim Shaw. I'm going there, legendary today. Let's do it. But you know what? Without them, without great stories and what they bring to the table, we are not us. So thank you to everybody involved, of course. So I guess how it goes, how I like to say here, folks, we all said what we wanted to say, what we needed to say, what we had to say. Damn it, we said it. So in the meantime, and in between time, folks, what do we tell them, Dale?
We say, happy huntings.